All right, episode 40 of Two FMA-Nerds Talk About Stuff. So I brought on Guro Eric Magie from Orlando, Eskrima. He's another Floridian martial arts nerd that I know in the community. He's been really supportive on social media of all my efforts and my shenanigans. So I just thought I'd bring him on here and have a great conversation. And I made a new friend. And yeah, I love doing this stuff. He and I also have a mutual friend, Guru Chris Chu. You might know him. He's been on here a few times. But anyways, he strongly recommended have Guro Eric on. And yeah, I was quite pleased to make a new friend, like I said, and have a great conversation. There's some cool stuff in this interview because there's stuff we just don't get to talk about often because we talk about like the Katipunan, but we don't talk about some of the other stuff involving Filipino history, especially World War II history. So Guro Eric has this great story about his father during World War II, and yeah, it's surprising, it's interesting, and I'll let him tell that story. So anyways, enjoy the episode, and make sure to like, subscribe, and do all those things. Thanks, see ya. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. How's everybody doing?
Doing really well here. So we have a mutual friend.
Yeah, Chris.
So Chris, a while as we were talking beforehand, Chris Chu specifically is a mutual friend of ours, and he, like you said, he's suggested that both of us talk and meet up and hang out. So here we are.
Yeah, no, Chris is awesome.
Yeah.
He comes by,
fun,
just hangs out and trains with the guys, goes to eats with us.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most important part, right?
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Well, I have a couple people on Instagram already saying hi. I got Royce Ramos from PTK there in New York saying what's up. So we can't pop it up on the screen here, but he's watching. So yeah, show some love there.
What's up, man?
Yeah. So Eric, while I finish sharing out to the rest of the globe, can you tell us a short story, or actually no, tell as long of a story of who you are and where you come from? The goal for today is we're going to, or at least the plan of today, is we're going to go through a biographical of who you are, leading it and then leading into martial arts, and we'll take it from there with whatever shenanigans comes up. So, anyways, I'm going to minimize myself while you tell a story.
All right, cool. My name's Eric Magie. I was born in Manila. I'm half Filipino, half Scottish, German, some other things. And yeah, we moved to the States when I was young. I was like 3. We moved to New Jersey, of all places, all the way from the Philippines to New Jersey. But my dad was ex-military. He got out of the military. He was 55 when I was born. So, and my mom was like 40. So they were both. I was definitely the surprise. And my dad was in the U.S. military in the Philippines. He was stationed there, and he got out, and he owned a bar in Manila. And World War II started, and he got stuck over there. A friend of his gave him a box of Springfield rifles, and he hooked up with a guerrilla group and fought the Japanese until MacArthur came back. And yeah, so my whole family spoke Tagalog except for me. They decided for some reason when we moved here that they didn't want me to have an accent, but no one else had an accent except for my mom, of course. My mom, she's like 90 something, and she's got a still heavy accent. But yeah, she's from Bicol, my mom. And when she was with my dad, we lived in Manila. That's where I was born. And then we moved to New Jersey. and Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey. It's kind of northern Jersey. It's nice. It's surrounded by woods. It's the biggest lake in New Jersey. Great place to grow up. People are great. And in the '90s, I moved to Florida, and I've been here since. And I was in Wing Chun for a while when I met my wife, and then we had a daughter like a year later. And that's when I quit Wing Chun. And a couple years later, I picked up FMA with Sergie Albino and Troy Provenzano. So Troy taught Lacosta Blend and Inosanto Lacosta Blend, and Sergie taught Serrada Eskrima. And they're both the same place, and it's like an hour apart, like hour one class, and then the other class is like an hour later. And yeah, I trained with those guys. It was, I think, end of '93, I think. And the school was only open for like about a year. I think it ended in '94 or early '95. And we still kept touch with those guys. So we would train with Troy once in a while, but we trained with Sergie all the time. A small group of us. And probably around '97, Sergie Albino, who was my instructor, my first instructor in Serrada, invited Jimmy Tacosa to test us out. So he came down, and he was here for a few months, tested us. Then he left, and he came back like a couple months later and stayed for a few more months and trained us again. It was cool. Almost got divorced during that time. I was like training like 5 days a week with him, and then sometimes we'd get together and barbecue and train with the guys, and it was constant. So, and it's like 3 hours each time I would train. So like Monday through Friday was 3 hours, and then if we went barbecuing, at least 3 hours. And that's if I didn't hang out afterwards, which I did a lot. And yeah, my wife was not too happy at that period. But it was good because it was like an intensive of just training. And then Sergie and I, the other guys kind of, like our group after Jimmy left, kind of split apart. It was me and Sergie, a couple of the other guys, and some of them moved too. So we started a school again. We were teaching out of a community center. And then probably like '08 or maybe like '09, we split from Jimmy. We had our differences. He had his differences. So we just kind of split apart. We just kept doing what we've been doing, and just kept training till today. Yeah, the one great thing about our school is our students. We've had some like dedicated guys who's been with us for years. Like Sean, he's on the page like constantly, and he complains. He's like, "You put me on too much." Sean is one of our top students. We have a lot of top students, but for some reason the guys like kind of rotate. Like one guy will come for a while, and then he'll drop off, and then another old guy will start coming again, and and then he'll drop off. But they always come back, and that's why it seems like we have a lot of like really skilled. I mean, we do, but I've heard comments like, "You guys got a lot of skilled students," and it's because we've had them for some of the guys been with us since '07, and Sean's been with us I think since like 2012 maybe 2011, something like that. So he's been with us. He was like I think 20 when he first started. He's in his 30s now, so um, yeah. And then we have guys and gals who just treat it like a social thing. They'll come to the barbecues and parties and train once a year. So yeah, I mostly do Serrada Eskrima. I do kind of mix in some other things. Sometimes I mix in some the Lacosta blend stuff, just because like Serrada doesn't have it. Like I remember the first time I think it was blend like Jesse Speedy. He was feeding like a sunkit, and I knew how to handle it, but none of my guys knew how to handle it, and because they've never seen, we don't have sunkits. We have more straight stabs instead of the hooks, and they didn't know how to handle it. So then I started teaching them sunkits. And I think it's just we don't teach the sunkit as a different strike. We just a variation of a six, like our six. Our six is like kind of straight in at the armor points, and so it's just a variation because it's all kind of like zone defense anyway. So I just instead of straight in, it's kind of hooking. It's a variation of the six or the seven. And I have a couple Sinawali's that I've added in there too from the Lacosta blend, which have some of the like the sunkit, the sunkit one. It's kind of like the six count, but it throws in the sunkits in there, like Heaven Six or something. But it instead of that straight strike, it throws a sunkit. I throw some of those in there. Yeah, but like 90% of it is Serrada, like 10% other stuff I've done or seen or trained. So that's about my, and I've done other stuff. I did some Wing Chun. I like in my bio it said I trained with George Ashford. When I in the early '90s, he was a waiter across the street from where I waited tables, and found out he did martial arts, and he said he'd be willing to train me, and he would teach me like for 15 minutes like techniques, and then 45 minutes of me getting my ass kicked and sparring. I did that for about maybe 2 years, and then I joined a kung fu school for a little bit, like a year and a half. Got to my yellow belt, and then I didn't train for a while. I kind of trained here and there, but nothing serious. And then I picked Wing Chun back up again in like '99 or 2000. And then I went from Wing Chun to FMA, and then FMA, I tried a lot of different styles. There's a lot of FMA in Florida area, in the Central Florida area. Like Tim Motter, I trained with under Tim Motter for a bit, and he is not Inosanto, but Bastilio. So it's kind of like Inosanto, but it's the Bastilio blend. And I did for a short period of time was Pambuan Arnis. Amaguru Pambuan, Rafi Pambuan. He's awesome. He's I joke with him is he'll smile while he kills you. He's great. He's local too. We have the modern Arnis guys, Chris Chu, of course, and his dad. And then you got a guy called Da Vinci who used to teach before I even met Chris. He used to teach modern Arnis. And then you got the Pikiti guys on the over in Tampa. They're Tim Wade's guys. So I'm not sure of the of the split, or if there is a split, or
It's messy. PTK is just messy.
yeah. But those guys, they're cool. You got Dino Martinez, and you got the Wakey brothers, and you have Simeon Lown. Those guys are PTK, and then of course you got FCS guys. A lot of FCS guys, like Benza Harris and Eric Rowe and Bryce. There's tons of guys, and they're all awesome.
Yeah, and you got June from Orlando Balintawak. Yeah.
Yep, you got Paul and June. I met them. They did a dojo storm.
Yeah,
it was fun. And June actually trained with Tacosa.
Yep.
Paul.
I think it was Paul. Yeah.
Paul. I got him mixed up. I'm sorry, guys.
It's all right. I just know June, but through the Balintawak community. So
Yeah, they're both in the Balintawak, I think, but it's Paul that he trained with Jimmy for like a long time ago.
yeah,
Like he was the first one down here. And I had great conversation with him. Then we have Jesse Speedy, who's Balintawak, but I think he's a different again.
yeah. I think he's to be in a. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I don't want to throw any shade. Like, I don't know what the difference is or if there's any beefs between, but Jesse's a great guy. He's good.
Yeah.
He was training with us after he was an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And him and I had a lot of good conversations about the similarities between Serrada and Balintawak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty cool because like even at the end of the Balintawak,
Yeah,
like,
the clip.
well, they do an outside. He was doing it for a while, and he was teaching us, and he's like, you know what? He's like, that's an outside pass, man. He's like, it's that last kind of that's what our outside pass is, and
yeah,
I think they come from the same island too.
Cebu. Yeah,
Pakiti comes all from was it Negros?
Yeah, Pakiti comes from Negros. I mean, Balintawak is in Cebu, but I mean, it's all the Visayas, so they float.
Yeah,
literally.
And I think Serrada's from the Visayas as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of great guys in Florida. We also have Trey Champas.
Yeah.
We have Nano. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's some like SDK. You ever hear of Kion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have those guys down here too. So
it's funny. Florida ends up being like the mecca of mini Manila, or just a miniature version of the Philippines. It must be the humidity. I being an awful Filipino, I hate the humidity. I hate the heat. I mean, I live up here in Alaska for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big sweaty mammal, man. So I don't like summer, but I love the winters down here.
At some point, I'll make my journey, my pilgrimage to Florida.
Yeah, it'd be great, man. Come by the desert. Yeah, it's I love the wintertime. I love like this time of season.
Mm-hmm.
Go camping a lot, so it's our camping season. So
bugs and alligators, right?
Yeah, not in the winter times. They're not around as much. So
yeah, that's fair.
That's when we go canoeing and stuff like that. There's bears aren't that much, all the dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
The amoebas that eat your brain, the meth heads who they're less active for time too. So
well, I mean, they all got to hibernate sometime.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit because there's some interesting little chunks. Well, first, having a wife that is supportive of your FMA shenanigans or just martial arts shenanigans.
Yeah.
That is, not everybody gets that. Not everybody has that privilege, that opportunity. So once upon that occurs, blessed be our spouses for putting up with all our shit. Oh man.
Yeah, that's definitely, she puts up with a lot.
Yeah, a successful martial artist. No, I should say, a successful martial artist has a successful relationship with their significant other, because behind every martial arts nerd, there is a spouse that's just kind of shaking their head of like, you big fucking nerd. Yeah. Oh wow.
Again.
Yeah. So let's go back. So you're half Filipino and you were born in the Philippines.
Yep.
But you don't look like a Filipino. That's a big thing a lot of people are going to say. But what's really interesting is your dad was stationed there prior to World War II. Was he? Where was he stationed at?
I'm not sure.
I'm assuming he was Army, or was he Navy?
He was Army.
Okay.
We have an old picture of him, like in his Army, like that cowboy kind of stiff cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Those, and it's like slanted and
okay,
like Army uniform. And then there's a picture, I think it's in June or July, where he's back with the American base.
Yeah.
He's in all khakis, and he's got like a pistol on his hip, and he's with a buddy, and
Yeah.
they're like outside of a hangar.
Yeah.
It was like a month before the war ended.
Yeah.
But back in Manila.
Was he ever captured by the Japanese? I mean, because for those who don't know, I mean, just people who don't know history, there was a huge amount of American service members and Filipino service members that got captured by the Japanese when the Japanese invaded. And of course, there is the Bataan Death March, where you had thousands of POWs that went on this, what is it, like 50-mile march, almost 100-mile march. And these men, these soldiers and sailors were basically marched to death. And it is incredible that these warriors survived through all that. And yeah, that's an incredible story. I've never had anybody, actually, I have never met anybody who has a family member that was part of, as an American, part of the American guerrilla effort working with the Filipinos. We always hear the stories about the Katipunan. We always hear the stories about the Filipinos who are fighting. And this is typical within the FMA community. In the U.S. military community, we know some of these stories, but like in between, what people forget, honestly, is that the martial is the head of the martial arts, and it comes from warfare. And there's this constant discussion about being battle tested. And again, the Philippines was a proving ground, especially during the various invasions and occupations. And that is incredible that your father was part of that guerrilla effort. Yeah. Thank you for his service for both defense of the U.S. and defense of the homeland of the Philippines. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. I mean, he loved the Filipino people, even after when he came back. So the stories, like my dad didn't tell me too many stories. It was my brothers who heard the stories from him once in a while.
Yeah.
And when he came back from the jungles and started coming back to Manila, he went to a bar and it was all bombed out.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of kids living in it, like little kids. And he wound up adopting 2 Filipino boys and a white girl, like young. And so my 2 adopted brothers, they passed away now because they were old, because they were like 10 or something like that when the war. And then my adopted sister, who's white, she doesn't speak any English at all, only Tagalog.
Oh.
And she still lives there. She's never moved. So when we moved, everybody moved with us. My adopted brothers, everybody came with us. But my adopted sister, Evelyn, she stayed there. She's still there. So I don't have too much contact. My sister has contact with her, but I don't have much contact with her. But he adopted kids after the war, trying to get out of that light.
Yeah. No, that's incredibly noble. It hits home because I'm an adoptee, and my adoptive parents were service members. Mainly my father, he was an Air Force intelligence officer stationed there at Clark Air Base back in the late 80s. So yeah, it's Very cool. Adoption stories is, I mean, it gets brought up. It's close and near to my heart here. So thank you for your father who took that on as well, because again, there is so much that is tied into the history of Filipino martial arts, and part of that is the reconstruction effort post-war, because like something that people forget about Filipino martial arts is like the codification is directly tied to the nationalization and independence of the Philippines post-war. Because like when we talk about the modern era of FMA, it's Doce Pares and beyond. So I mean, it's less than 100 years, just like the Philippines as a nation is less than 100 years old.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think when he was during his time as a guerrilla, he got shot, and he caught malaria.
Yeah.
And he got separated from his group for a little bit.
Oof.
So he was on his own for like a few months.
Yeah.
Because they did a raid, and during the raid or something, my brother said that he got separated. and he lived off the kindness of the villages. Like, he'd live in the jungles, but he'd go into the village and they'd take care of him and hide him,
Yeah.
and point them towards his group, till he eventually made it back with his group.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's really interesting because our history is pretty specific. I'll talk about World War II history is specifically taught through the lens of the European theater and the U.S. Marine theater there in the Pacific, and there's often forgotten about is the campaign in the Philippines, and they're in the islands of Malay, or the archipelago of the Malay, and so yeah, there's more needs to be focused about like the efforts of both the Americans that got trapped there after MacArthur just left, and then the Filipino insurgents and guerrillas. Because again, that when we talk about forgotten wars, the Philippines is a forgotten war when it comes to the overall scope of the study of World War II, especially from the American perspective. Because the only thing that really the Americans remember is, well, we were there. MacArthur left. He said he'll be back. And there's the Bataan Death March. And those are the four main highlights that are specifically studied. But everything else in between, especially around the American standpoint, it's just, it's not taught. So these kind of stories are important to document. And it is incredible that you have direct blood lineage to that effort. So yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, I just wish I had more documentation of it.
Yeah.
Because again, I was young, and my brother said there was a notebook for a while, and then after my mom moved, it got lost, and wish one of my brothers or sisters would have took control of it, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know how shit gets lost, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of the World War II memorial, World War II paraphernalia and trophies that my adoptive grandfather, brought back from the Pacific Theater. He was a Marine Raider, and I mean, he fought from, he was hardcore. He's an interesting individual overall, but yeah, it was straight up hardcore. He went from Guadalcanal all the way to Iwo Jima and then to Burma. And I think he did spend some time in the Philippines during the reconstruction effort. But yeah, it's
the Raiders,
it's interesting. Yeah,
the Marine Raiders, they were awesome.
Yeah, there were some stories. There's some straight up stories with him. So, oh well. So let's moving beyond World War II family history and moving to New Jersey, because this is another thing that's interesting where I find I've done with a number of these interviews. I find like three major ports of entry for the U.S. from Filipinos is everybody starts in New Jersey for some reason, or they end up in California, like Stockton area, of course, or Stockton, San Francisco area, and Hawaii. So like, what is it about New Jersey and Filipinos? I don't understand.
Yeah, no, my dad had family there, is why we moved
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
we did. I think we stopped in California because my adopted brother had moved there.
Yeah.
So my kuya Albert, he lived in San Fran.
Mm-hmm.
And so my nephew, who's just about as old as me, he still lives there. My kuya Albert passed away in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But his family, and I got a nephew and niece out there.
Yeah.
That I keep in touch with through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them, and it'd be great to go make a trip out there and see them. I haven't seen them since I was little, and they were little.
Yeah. There's such an age gap that you mentioned. How old were you when your family immigrated to the U.S.?
So I was like 3.
Yeah.
And Hopakon, like I said, it's a great town. The people are great. Just there's those individuals who, when I was probably like first grade, I think, called me chink.
Yeah.
Auto fighting words back in the day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's because the immigration story is specific to like to use the term, a full Filipino or a full whomever, whatever they're from. But there is a bit of the immigration story that is forgotten, especially from these places post World War II, like Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Okinawa, Taiwan, etc., where you have American service members who came back with a spouse and a child, and it's different from like Europe, where American service members coming back with a white lady and a white baby, where you have
British,
yeah. But coming from the other side, where you have a half Asian, half Southeast Asian child, it's that bit of history is also forgotten about the story of immigration, and honestly the story of prejudice and overcoming that. Because outwardly, I mean, you look like a big white guy, and unless people look at your mother and the rest of your siblings, they would have no idea. So that's can you speak to, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, can you speak about some of the issues that you dealt with and then got past when it came to your immigration to the US and being part of a mixed family? Because it's important, because there's a lot of Filipinos that have mixed families now. And thankfully, we've gotten past all those, not totally past, but the social issues have progressed so much that it's more widely acceptable. Like my family, for example, is my wife's white and our kids are beige. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's my daughter is kind of, she's a quarter Filipino. My wife German.
Mm-hmm.
So she definitely has like darker hair and looks almost more Hispanic. And when I was younger, I looked more Hispanic. Than Asian. I have a little bit of the Asian nose.
Yeah.
As I got older, I grow the old man beard, but I got the I call it the coconut head. Like the whole family. We got that, like
the hair doesn't go just poofs out.
Yeah. And I have a good hairline, so
there you go. It's important.
But I mean, it was at first it was just the differences. Again, where you grow up. Like I thought my daughter would have some problems.
Yeah.
But she had no problems because we're in Orlando and everybody shares. Like there's a lot of mixed races. It's all mixed. Whereas New Jersey, it was in Hopatcong, in the town I grew up. Again, it was a great town. It's just you're mostly Irish or Italian or a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the town. So it was, there's also the assholes who would, say something like nasty or just fucking mean, and you start fighting. But all my friends I grew up with, they knew I was Filipino, and they liked the Filipino. Like when my mom would cook food for the parties, like the pancit and the lumpia.
Yeah, the important stuff.
Yeah. And then when I was like growing up, I would cook hot dogs and rice, and all my buddies growing up thought that was a Filipino dish. It kind of is, but they thought that was like, a main staple. I'm like,
spam
with rice, man. But my friends still today, they're like, yeah, man, gonna make some hot dogs and rice. So I was like, yeah, man, if you want me to, I can make better. As a kid, you could grill, you could fry hot dogs real quick. Everyone knows how to make the rice when they're a little kid, But so I grew up with a little bit of Filipino culture, and as I started hanging out with my friends, I started, eating different, like mac and cheese. I was like, wow, mac and cheese is amazing.
Yeah.
Where we had like rice with everything all the time. And we had it for Thanksgiving, So it was good culturally for my friends to come over, to go over to my friends' houses and eat and see, the differences in meals a lot. And then my dad would make tapa a lot, and he'd make like tapa jerky.
Nice.
And then my mom's like, he's making his jungle food. Because he'd make tapa, and then he'd like, slow cook it in the oven and make it into beef jerky.
If it's good, it's good.
Yeah. So grew up eating that, and it was interesting to show my friends a little bit of Filipino culture we had. You
Mm-hmm.
know, my mom had the fork and the spoon, the big wooden one with
Mm-hmm.
supper hanging over the kitchen table. You know,
A disciplinary spoon, yes.
yeah, giant. I have my dad a belt, man. He'd take that belt out and snap it. He
Yeah.
didn't hit me with it. he just snapping it was enough to, get me like stop doing whatever the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
Get my attention.
All I need is the Tisanella and the Wallis, and you're good to go.
Yeah. And my mom with her damn flip flops.
Yeah. Oh man. So moving from New Jersey to Florida, what was the impetus behind that with your family?
So it was not my whole family still lives in Jersey.
Yeah.
I got a nephew who lives here. He moved down with me a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Then he moved on his own. But it was like early 90s. I was going to community college,
Mm-hmm.
just partying a lot, not really doing much. A bunch of my friends, like 5 of them, came to Florida and they were living in Daytona Beach,
Mm-hmm.
1991. And they were having amazing times. So I was like, I'm going down there. And the goal was to go down here for a few months, and I wound up staying for forever.
I mean, home is home.
Yeah, but I mean, I moved from, Daytona to Orlando.
Yeah.
After a few months of Daytona. Daytona was great during spring break, but
Yeah.
after it wasn't so great.
I've never been, but I've been told many things, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So I mean, I moved to Orlando, and I live in Winter Park, and the dojo is in Winter Park, but it's like right on the edge of Winter Park. It's in the greater Orlando, Florida area.
Oh, nice.
But I still go to Jersey a lot. I just went there a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Spent like a month there. Visited my mom. My brothers.
Yeah.
So
while you're back there, did you ever link up with, like, say, any of the Lightning Scientific Arnis guys or any of the Atienza folks? Because I mean, they're all based out of Jersey. I mean, it's like saying, like, do you know somebody from Florida? Like, it's a state, but
well, yeah, I might know if someone does say FMA, but I don't, because my FMA journey didn't start up there, so it started down here. But I do the Iron Combatives. Will, he's in Trenton, and right before I was going up there, he contacted me and said, "Hey, you want to do like a joint seminar, focused on Leo stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's cool." So he came down. He's a great guy, and we did like a little joint seminar together, which was cool. I think it's Iron Combative Tactics.
Nice.
So Will, he's a cool guy.
Because you got Aero Bastoleros, Sachi Villarreal, Lex Christomosin. They're all part of the LSAI, the Lightning Scientific community. So they're out of there.
Too, right?
Say again?
There's a Blintawak group up in Jersey too.
Yeah, that's Frank Zong's group. I'm friends with Chino, who's also one of his students, who's also a fellow member of the NSI community. So he's a friend of mine. And there's Atienza. I mean, Atienza started in Jersey. So yeah,
those guys are badass.
Yeah, they are.
I like growing up. I never had the money. My folks didn't have the money. I always wanted martial arts, anything. I wanted karate, something. We didn't have the money for it. And then as I got a little older, like out of high school and started going to college, in my senior year when I was working a lot, the drive, it was like an hour away. It was towards New York City.
Yeah.
So I wound up not choosing to go, but I didn't. I mean, I started late in my life. I started at I was 32 or 33.
So you didn't start in the backyard with your dad and your brothers, because that's a common feature for a lot of martial artists, is they start because they have a legacy lineage, so to speak, where martial arts is a patrilineal thing, starting in the backyard. So that wasn't your experience?
So some basic punching and like boxing and stuff like that. And then my actually, when he would come, he would show me butterfly knife stuff.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
was living in California, but he would come visit
Mm-hmm.
us, um, once every couple years. And I remember like when he started coming, I was still pretty young, but I always remembered the butterfly
Yeah.
knife. He always
Oh
had
yeah.
a knife on him. He'd always take it out, and as I got a little older, he was starting to show me like the basics of opening it and stuff. So I'm sure he knew. My nephew and my niece, they say they don't think he ever trained, but I think he trained something, uh,
Yeah.
probably in California,
Yeah.
after he moved. So um, yeah, that's and I did backyard fight. I was the youngest brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I skipped from my brothers. my middle brother, he's 7 years older than me, and
Mm-hmm.
me and my buddies would be hanging out in the house, and I'm the latch kid key, like
Mm-hmm.
I grew up just going in the house, no parent, so like
Feral. Yeah.
6. Uh, in the summertime, my brother would come in, especially after my dad passed. He'd come in and like 10, 15 kids hanging out in my house, and
Yeah.
he wants to have time with his girlfriend. He grabbed the wiffle ball bat and beat us in the shins. He
Yeah.
was mean, man. He beat our shins and drive us out of the house. But back then it wasn't a big deal to ride around
Yeah.
on a bike, and so. But yeah,
Yeah.
they beat us up.
80s and the 90s were a special time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I miss that.
yeah.
Well, so let's move forward and talk about Serrada, because as a FMA show, as an FMA nerd show, it is behooved of us to actually talk about FMA at some point. So so Serrada, can you start with what it is, because I have a lot of listeners who aren't FMA nerds. So could you tell us what Serrada is and how you and go from there? Because you mentioned Jimmy Latosa, because I have a
Uh,
friend of mine out here who is say
Latosa.
again?
Uh, uh, Jimmy, it's not Latosa.
Oh,
Yeah, Jimmy. Now you got me all brain like muddled.
okay.
Jimmy Tacosa with a T.
Tacosa. That okay, yeah.
Yeah,
That
Latosa is another guy from
yeah.
Serrada. But Tacosa and Latosa are two different.
Okay. I'm not very familiar fully with the entire lineage of Serrada. I have a friend out here that is also a Serrada guy, and I believe he's a student of Jimmy Tacosa's. I could be wrong. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Serrada came from Angel Caballas,
Mm-hmm.
who learned from Dizon, and it was like a Decortis kind of style they called
Mm-hmm.
it. And he trained with him, and then he, like, stories go that they trained. They eventually made it to Manila, and they worked at the docks, and they trained there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like Illustrisimo trained with them, and
Mm-hmm.
um, a couple of other like famous guys. Can't remember their names, but they all kind of like had this group that they
Yeah.
hung out and trained. And then I don't know if it's that Angel killed someone or badly hurt somebody,
Yeah.
and he left. He was Merchant Marine,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when he made his way over to the States.
Yeah.
And then I think in the '60s it was that he opened. He's like the first one to Filipino openly teach non-Filipinos.
Yeah.
Open a
Yeah.
school. And he had a couple guys that helped him, like Max Sarmiento.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Cadena Damano. He was supposed to be like a knife guy and empty hand. He was big Filipino.
Yeah.
And then you had was it Giron?
Mm-hmm.
And he did like the Largo, like the Largo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that around that time is when Jimmy started.
Yeah.
And I know he like trained a lot with like Mike and I.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Mike were trained together. Like he tells a lot. He told a lot of stories about those two training together. And that's why, like, out of all the other Serrada systems out there, the Anion system and our system are pretty close. A lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Between our two systems, which is pretty cool. Like I trained with a couple guys like Heath Such. He's an Anion guy.
Mm-hmm.
We just played together, and it was like awesome. It was like a lot of stuff like really similar to the stuff I was doing.
So what's some of the key features of Serrada? Like what there's each style, each method of FMA has like a specific thing, like its thing. So with Serrada, what is its thing, so to speak?
It's like short sticks,
Mm-hmm.
real close, more closing, or thick sticks, thick short sticks. Like they use it as like weight training. That you start with a big thick stick, and then when you go to a thin stick, it's it goes from driving a Mack truck to a Ferrari. You know?
Gotcha. Okay.
That first turn, you always smash into the wall, man. So yeah, it's the closing. Yeah, every system has that kind of like Pikiti will do that.
They have the Pikiti jab.
Yeah. But Balentawak will do the
Yeah.
Because we do a similar thing. We brace it a little bit. We'll either brace the stick or brace the hand, like this or this. But Balentawak will keep this hand checked, ready to come out. But it's very similar. It's like holding the center line and turning just a little bit. Maintaining that center line is the same thing. Yeah, it's always funny to see the guys
little nuances.
Watching your videos, trying to figure out so you did some Pikiti, right?
Yeah, I've been in and out of Pikiti for about a decade. It's very unaccredited, but I also have a pretty strong Balintawak background, and I have some modern Arnis. So
yeah, because I saw you were doing a flow, just the basic flow, and you threw that like when the stick is close to your chest, that, and then you did the kind of lean. I don't remember if you threw your hand out, but you did that.
Depends how lazy I was.
Yeah, not saying anything like but I was like, some Pikiti, man.
Pikiti is actually how I got reintroduced into FMA. So my FMA journey starts actually in the backyard with my grandfather, my adoptive one. So he picked up FMA, a form of FMA, when he was going through campaign through World War II. I'm thinking is whatever it was in Hawaii at the time, because he went through jungle warfare school there. And then there was FMA there. I haven't figured out what system it is. So there's that. Plus he's got wartime experience, obviously, as a Marine Raider. So he brought back the single knife specifically to the family, taught it, stripped out all the family, all of the Filipino references, but the knife was really emphasized in there. And there's a little bit of single stick, but I think that's more or less like the Marine like club training, but it wasn't really FMA-ish. And then when I was at a Taekwondo school as a kid, there was a Doce Pares modern Arnis guy there. He was a Filipino dude, and he saw me playing with sticks and knives. He's like, "Oh, you're Filipino. I'm Filipino. You should know what FMA is." It's like, I don't know what that is, dude. so yeah, I trained with him for about a year, and then I gotten really heavily into boxing and taekwondo and was competing professionally and semi-pro, and then I stopped because I got injured. And then when I got into the army the first time around, one of my NCOs was a Tim Wade PTK guy, and I spent a lot of time with him. That's where I got reintroduced. But also like SIOC is honestly a heavy influence, just mainly from observation, but it's really PTK got me back in. And then as I got linked up with everybody, specifically like with Belton Lubas, Guro Belton, there down in Washington, that's how I really got integrated into Tabuada, Balintawak, and NSI through Datu Kelly. And of course, and by extension, I'm still PTK, but we don't really Belton and I don't do a lot of PTK stuff specifically because we focus on NSI, which is modern Arnis and Jeet Kune Do to a point, and of course Balintawak. So those are like my two primary focuses right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Watching is like you a lot of videos are drills and stuff like that, like mine. Like so, it's kind of a system sometimes from drills.
Yeah.
But then I saw the video of you flowing. I was like, oh, he's definitely got PTK in there, like, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But it came out in your flow, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I always ask. I mean, I titled the majority of my videos, "Is it FMA?" Because what is the definition? What is the definition of FMA? And I have so many like blends of stuff because I'm very multidisciplinary, as a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And so I try to figure out if somebody can determine what it is that I'm doing, where it comes from, and then tell me why. Because I mean, it's up to the person's interpretation, because I know what I'm doing, but I don't know whether everybody else knows what I'm doing. So
yeah, and like when in cross training with people too, you pick stuff up. You might see something, they might do something, you're like, oh, that was fucking cool. What'd you do, man? And then they show like Chris will do shit, or Chris will like, watch this, man. And I'm like, that's awesome. Show me slower, man. Like,
yeah. Well, the other fun part is when I start throwing in things like shorty foot and wushu, because I have a pretty strong background in that as well, and throwing that into the play. You really see that actually when I work with a spear or a short staff, because like I had no idea what a CBOT staff was until like very late on in life, but I sure know what a long pole is. So
yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it's fun.
Chris's dad did Choi foot, I believe.
Yep.
Which is cool. Yeah, I mean, I always like Kung Fu. Anytime like we're doing tapping and I start messing around, I'll start Wing Chun in it a little bit. I'll tighten in the shoulder, the elbow, and pull the hand out a little bit.
Yeah.
Or do like little sticky hands. Yeah. So yeah, I always throw a little bit in. And my kicks, like Jimmy taught us kicks, and he taught us, the way he kicked is not the way that I kick. Is I do it the same, like, when
mechanic,
where I'm hitting and everything like that. It's just mine are a little more Muay Thai flavored.
We have our preferences and we have the things that we're good at. So yeah, I get it.
And Jimmy didn't complain, so I was like, he didn't like, don't kick like that. He just was like, okay, that's fine. Like,
if it works.
Yeah, you're kind of listening to me, so.
That's funny. So with all that, so talk about multidisciplinary backgrounds. For a lot of martial artists, there is this debate about competing and sparring, whether amateur or professional. Do you have any of that in your background, whether it's tournament or amateur or semi-pro, pro fights or anything like that?
Yeah, no, never did any like sport-based fighting.
Yeah.
Some street fighting in my youth. Usually
I mean, that's I mean, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, that's education alone as it is. There is something special about, again, growing up between the 80s and the 90s where you could actually scrap, because that's where people actually could fight. So
pulling a gun or something like that. Yeah. So I mean, we sparred to school, and I've sparred going up through the ranks. I sparred in Kung Fu and Wing Chun, but I never did it competition. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I don't think that the opportunity ever kind of like threw itself right in my face.
Yeah. I mean, nothing against that. I'm always curious because I mean, it's part of the overall martial arts journey, and it also adds to like the how one informs their position on the debate about you must spar. There's drilling only, and just like all that in between. Because like within our community, there's always this issue about drills versus sparring, and a lot of people forget about like there's a bunch of stuff in between that kind of does both. So yeah,
going up through the system, me my brothers that went through the system with me, with Sergie and Jimmy, a lot of times we would doing the drill again and again, or we'd get together and have barbecue, a few beers, and we start doing the counters, and then we're like would fuck with each other and not be a participant. So we would like we'd pressure test a lot with each other, and that's that kind of some of that in between stuff is and I see it with the guys. I like if I have two of my advanced guys fucking around, I'll leave them. Like if it's like newer guys, I kind of like berate them and tell them to do as I told you, like But with the guys who've been with me for a while, they'll start suddenly they're rolling across the ground. stabbing each other, and like, you know, I let those guys play, but the newer guys I try to keep on task.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we do sparring. Sparring is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we do sparring between anywhere from, we have those like thin rattan sticks, they're whippier. And we have the Filipino hand protection, which is the flip flop.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, where can I buy that? I'm like, buy it at Walmart.
Give you 10 for $2.
Yeah. Just drill a hole, take out the thong part, you know, put it in there, and that's our sparring stick. So we have those, and those are for the advanced guys, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes they spar without helmets. Sometimes they, you know, they're always like, don't hit the head, and then one of them hits the other guy's head. Like,
or poke an eye, you know.
Yeah, well, thankfully nothing too bad.
Yeah.
But you know, usually it's controlled, and they'll tap the head, and the other guy's usually okay.
Yeah.
But and then like the beginners, I have spar more with the foam,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the foam sticks, and sometimes the advanced guys too. But the foam sticks they don't handle a block well.
I also find the foam sticks, people have this tendency to hit harder with a foam stick because they figure it's a foam stick, it's not gonna hurt. So they do straight up full windups, and you can get knocked the fuck out with a foam stick.
Your black eye, break your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, the foam sticks. Yeah, that, and then the not like respecting the weapon.
Yeah.
They'll jump into shit with foam. They'll jump into shit and take a shot to give a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's, you know, when it's a stick, they won't do that.
Yeah.
Just getting hit with those whippy rattan, man. That sucks, man. So yeah, like they all have their good and the bad, you know.
Yeah.
Foam sticks are good, and I wound up picking up I always wanted shock knives. So Da Vinci, modern guy down here that I used to train with, he had shock knives when they first came out. They were like $500 a pair.
Yep.
I'm sure they're way more now, but I found them on Amazon, like a knock for like $80.
Nice.
Back. So I bought those, and we started shocking the shit out of each other. And I mean, it's not even, it doesn't even really hurt that bad.
It's more like, oh,
it's just, you know that you got hit.
Yeah.
But it's the sound, man, and seeing the little bolt go across the blade, you're like, oh shit. Like, you know?
I like shock knives, nothing against AccuStrike blades, but I like shock knives a little better than the beeping blade, because the beeping blade is like, oh, I got beeped, so it's an auditory thing. With a shock knife, there's some straight up pain compliance that you have to worry about, and there's more respect for the training implement. They both have their unique specialties that are good, but like I prefer a shock knife because I mean I'm a little bit of a sadist, but yeah.
Well, too, like if I go to cut you and you like wound me and you catch my hand's not going to continue forward. I'm going to be like, ow, you know. I'll react like it's real. Like I'm not going to keep pummeling through you. You hit me, I'm going to like recoil. My hand's out and you tap my hand, I'm not going to leave my hand out there. I'm going to recoil my hand. Like, you know, you have the reaction too. Like when you get someone in the belly or something, or in like the arm where it's not any shirt, they'll react more and like start moving out of the way instead of, you know, holding their ground like because it just beeped. You know, but then
it's
the beeping are great too, just to see like, okay, yeah, I'm hitting, my blade is you know, good angle. Definitely I do like those. Gone through a couple of them actually. Yeah.
I need to get another set. It's just that's quite the investment.
Yeah. They were $50, but I'm sure they're more now.
It's like a couple $100. So
yeah, damn.
Yeah.
Ray Dinaldo, he introduced me to those. He was doing like a seminar at my place, and he's like, I was like, those are awesome. Like what are those? Just like anything, you know, you see another FMA guy with some kind of new gadget, you're like, ooh, what is that? You know, that's like when I posted about the shock knives, everybody like, you know, everybody was like, I'm sure I made them a whole bunch of extra sales, man.
I mean, that there is a direct like um symbiosis between the practitioners and the makers, and then even better when the makers are also a practitioner. So
Yeah,
it's, I mean, it's give and play like that, because I mean, there's a lot of the issues about like social media and all the awful things that it does, but there's some great stuff that social media does, like it brings people together like today, and it
absolutely.
also helps bring like um different facets of the same love of the thing. So, like in the case of you have a creator of stuff for training, and you get people who want this stuff. Because I mean, growing up, we either had a stick, typically not rattan because it's not native to the U.S.,
Yeah,
or so we had things like a pipe that's wrapped up in foam, or we didn't have training knives or training swords. We end up going to the dollar store and doling out a machete or whatnot. So, like, now that things are, the industry is so well developed, we can train safer, so to speak. So,
yeah.
yeah,
That is Sergie used to have this damn steak knife he got from Bennigan's.
yeah,
Like something sharp. He's like, I rubbed it on the ground. I was like,
yeah. Well, my favorite training blade actually is a butcher knife that I doled out the edge. I bought it for $1 at
nice.
the swap and meet, and I just took it to a bench grinder and ground it out. Because again, the training of what the murder stabby shit. I mean, why not use it?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely come a long way from even the early 2000s.
Oh yeah,
Because I remember trying to look for like a training blade that wasn't rubber.
yeah.
You know, it wasn't the like cold steel rubber ones or the super floppy ones.
Oh yeah,
Remember the super floppy ones?
yep,
They were like painted like they looked like a knife.
yeah.
Those things were. I mean, they had their uses. Like if they were good. Like if you were going to do hard sparring,
Mm-hmm.
this way it wouldn't like you wouldn't hurt your partner stabbing the shit out of them.
My favorite thing to do with the rubber knives, especially the really floppy one, is when we hand hunt. I love just snapping the back of somebody's knuckles. Like, I got you. Let's go.
Yeah, you can't say you didn't. Got a little welt from the back of the knife. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's fun.
Yeah,
I
that's
tend to,
with duck too, man. Duck's awesome, man.
yeah. Oh man, that's fun.
That's good shit, man.
So, moving forward with your FMA journey and everything else, what were some things that you want to go do? Because, like, the issue for a lot of FMA people in general is like they get settled and just either they're teaching, they're just comfortable with what they're doing, or they just can't go do stuff. And again, progress moving forward, that's how we become better. So, what are some of the things that you would like to do here in the future with FMA, if there's anything you would like to do in the future with FMA?
Um, I mean, I've always liked. I did a little bit of jujitsu, and I always liked. And I have a couple jujitsu like high ranked jujitsu guys, and
Yeah.
it's always fun to kind of roll with them with a knife to
Mm-hmm.
see like, okay, what can you do? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to see the challenges there, and it's always fun to mix it up a little bit
Yeah.
uh, with those guys. So I mean, I like that. Um, I mean, if I was rich, I would train as much stuff as I could, man.
Yeah.
You know, you do it as a job and just train all day. If my wife was cool with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, back to the first lesson of the day: supportive spouse.
But like, like, FMA, you get a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I find someone from a different background, I always try to like cross train with them,
Mm-hmm.
just to see like the art, just to train in a little bit. Like I got hooked with HEMA,
Mm.
and that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
And like because the different swords, so the different ways, and
The
depending on
better armor.
yeah, well, like the handle, like if it's just like an old school medieval,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost just like Filipino.
Yeah.
Like all the
Yeah.
guards are like close in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
like Filipino, whereas once you get that knuckle bow
Mm-hmm.
or like any hand protection, the guard comes out.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's interesting to see because they'll do a move and I'm like, shit, that's Filipino. It's just not out there. It's
Yeah.
just in tighter, you know. So there's a lot of cross in there too.
Yeah.
Now I've noticed, no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry, I have a little delay on my end.
Yeah, no worries. I noticed too that there's like anytime anyone has like taekwondo sparring or
Mm-hmm.
kickboxing or boxing or any kind of like fight sport, that
Mm-hmm.
they do well in sparring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have that distance. They
Mm-hmm.
have the timing kind of down a little bit. They have distance management.
Mm-hmm.
They move well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just coordinating the stick strike, which sometimes you're like, come on, man, you should know this. Like my buddy Rob, he was Kempo, and a lot of the empty hand Kempo is just like
Yeah.
FMA Kempo, or not Kempo, FMA. You know,
Well, I mean, Kempo is directly influenced by FMA because I mean it's developed there in Hawaii. There's a lot of Filipinos in Hawaii, so
yeah, like he'll move and empty hand, he'll do great. The minute you put a stick in his hand, he's
yeah.
like, I'm like, bro, it's the same move, man. You know?
Correction, Kaju Kempo. Kaju Kempo was developed in Hawaii. Sorry.
Yeah.
For my Kempo friends out there, I am sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So Rob did like several different kinds of Kempo.
Yeah.
So when we opened the dojo, it was me, him, and a Wing Chun guy, Tom,
Yeah.
who were the three main teachers. That's what the dojo is called. How is it? Orlando Combatives.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Rob moved away, and Tom got too busy with work.
Yeah.
So we got new Kempo guys in teaching. We have an Aikido instructor. We have Chris teaches on days. And then like the HEMA classes, we just do that after like karate class. You know, whoever wants to stay, we're going to do HEMA.
I love me some HEMA. I actually appreciate it for the sparring application a little more than FMA, especially with blade sparring. I'm an awful FMAer, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
One thing is I like the better usage of armor, and there's also some better tools because there is this issue about tools that are developed for a task versus tools that are available. Because again, like the history of FMA is you have the farm implements, you have the farming blades that were tasked specifically for farm work. I mean, there was the war fighting blades, obviously, through the other lineages, but depending upon which time period we were dealing with, we either have the bolo machetes that are specifically for cutting down cane and cutting through the jungle, and they're not specifically designed for warfare, so the movements are off, versus like European swords. They're specifically designed for warfare versus like, I mean, there's some arguments about like some forms of messer and stuff like that, but like the European swords, they're clearly swords for warfare. Even the bolos, a little different.
Made for killing people, man.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some. I subscribe to the idea that the unique features of the tool will dictate how it's used, and it also will limit some of its efficiency. Not necessarily like the body's the vehicle that moves the weapon or moves the tool or the weapon, etc. But the fact is, like if you have like a 10-pound club, that's not going to move as efficient as say like a 2.5 pound club with a weighted end. So like, it's just there's mechanics and physics that we have to work against.
Yeah, definitely. Like so, Sergie, my first instructor, he's Filipino. I believe his family's from Negros.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he bought land like 10 years ago out in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And he said that they were kind of surveying it and like checking it out, and they found out there was a village like squatting on. So they went up and talked to the people, and he said a bunch of the farmers came up like yelling at him, and and he's like I definitely noticed. He was like, I felt naked. He's like, all these farmers are standing around me and they all are carrying bolos.
Mm-hmm.
And they're mad at me. And he's like, and here I am, jeans and a t-shirt. He's like I definitely like felt, underarmed.
Yeah.
But they were purely farming instruments, but it would cut him down if yeah, he even took a picture of one of the guys. He's like squatting on the ground, and he's got a chicken, and right on his hip is a nice looking bolo, man.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a difference between, like, say, the mortal weapons of the South, like a crisp blade, or even like they're in the Messiahs with a guillotine, versus that of like your classic katipunan bolo.
Yeah.
So, or even some respects the barong, because I mean, depending upon which era of barong is just one's more ceremonial, and one's more farm implement, and the other one, there's some war fighting barongs as well. So.
Yeah, and then when they start like the Sansa bars, when they start getting the knuckle bow across them, those are purely for fighting, like so you don't get your hand sniped so much. Yeah, and the Ganuntings, they have some of those have that front knuckle bow drop down on them, and I'm sure it's from European, influence. But it's cool to see the difference. Like Galuks. Some Galuks look just like a farming instrument. You don't need to stab anybody. But then, like, the war Galuk is like a giant meat cleaver, man.
Yeah.
They're just bad looking, man.
Yeah, I have this one guillotine that I picked up from a pawn shop, but it's very, very simple. Like, there is no cross guard on it, but has a very nice tapered end, forward weighted tip that you can tell this is a guillotine. But it is kind of those weird hybrids of not quite a farm implement, but it is clearly a war fighting tool, but it's a very simple version of one.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's always awesome to see the variations of them, and if they have a slight cross guard, if they don't, sometimes it's straight steel to handle. I had a Spidey Daga that the Daga it was a straight blade to the handle.
Yeah.
It had a little like a swan tail or sparrow tail, like and for my Kuya Albert, from my adopted brother. He showed me when I was younger that when I'd hold knives, he'd always tell me to where's the camera there? He'd tell me to brace the knife against your pinky.
Yep.
Like this. So with that swallowtail, it fit perfectly, man. It was like made for it. So it's like Kuya Albert's his little trick, and it's to keep, if it's blade to handle, it keeps it from flipping. That little, it's just a little trick, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he taught me that when I was young, which is cool. Yeah, I got this Scottish knife. It's not that small, but it's kind of the same.
Oh yeah, it's a little skidoob, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, it's skidoo. I went to Scotland. I'm like, can I see the Sing Dobbs? And the girl just laughed at me. So she taught me how to say it properly.
Nice. There is a war fighting culture and a culture of insurgency rebellion. I mean, the Scots. I mean, that of like two like peoples that have fought the oppressors and the invaders. I mean, that what a bloodline to have. You have scary ass Scotsmen and scary ass Filipinos. So yeah.
It's not a calm mixture though.
No, it's not, but it's an awesome mixture.
Yeah. I hiked through Scotland. I hiked 200 miles across Scotland. So I did from Glasgow to Fort William, then from Fort William to Inverness.
Oh, nice.
Just pretty much from the bottom to not the very top, but almost to the top there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool. A lot of drinking scotch.
Yeah, as one does.
I go 15 miles and have a few wheat pints.
That's awesome. So, amongst your travels, where are some of your favorite places to have trained, and with whom, in your FMA journey?
So in FMA, I haven't really. I'm not like. I don't like to. I don't. Not that I don't like to travel and train, but I haven't really.
Yeah.
I've just trained locally. I've trained with a lot of guys locally. I think the furthest that I've gone is to up north to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
To train with Inosanto.
Okay.
I went of his summit because I was like probably 6 years ago now. I was like, I better go train with him before he he gets too old. And
yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah, he's still training though. He's amazing. Took his he would quick show you, do a little demo and then say, okay, do it for 2 minutes. And while you're training it, he's doing squats or
Yep.
planks or I'm tired already. I'm looking at him damn it. He's 89 or whatever, however old he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he I think that's the furthest that I went down to Miami one time to train with Grand Tuhan.
New guy here.
Yeah, Leo Gahe.
Nice.
He's funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I cut the balls off and now it's yours. Damn.
He's crazy, but he's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I went probably 10 years ago. I went with the PTK guys in Tampa area.
Mm-hmm.
Martinez and those guys. They invited our group out, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I haven't really traveled out of state to train. Every time I'm out of state and I know that there's an FMA school, I'm like, yeah. But then the wife's like, oh, we're supposed to do this, and I'm like, oh.
I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of people that just come to you in your school. It's one of the benefits of having a school that's somewhat centrally located and having a lot of FMA around it, that people just show up and want to hang out. So
yeah,
location. That's awesome. So
yeah, I'm definitely lucky with that. There's, like I said, I had Keith, such. I had, you ever hear of Nick Merchant?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, Nick's a great guy. His parents live nearby, so he when he visits his parents, sometimes he'll come by the school.
Yep.
And train with us. And that's how I met GN.
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to have a seminar and something fell through, so then he was having a seminar somewhere else.
Yep.
And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, he didn't even know who I was. He was just like, hey, Orlando Eskrima. He's like, if you want, you come by, and hang out. And so I came out and hung out, and he was awesome. We wound up doing a little flow behind the bar. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, that's that's how I met Will. That's meet a lot of the guys through Eskrima. I'll have guys who will contact me who are like, hey, I'm going to be in Disney with the family.
Nice.
You mind if I stop by? What's your schedule? And I give them our schedule and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we've had some cool guys come in. We do get a good amount of Serrada guys who are interested in just seeing us, and they're different level, different types. And I've trained with a couple different Anayan guys. So like Alan Roholt, he's an instructor. So Anayan system, I think, kind of split after Mike and I passed. So it's Jason's guys, and then all the other guys. And so I've trained with both sides, and they're all cool, man. Alan, he was working here for a while, so he trained with us for a few months.
Oh, nice.
So we hung out. We all ate together. Alan would teach the school sometimes. So I was like, hey, man, none of the instructors are going to be there. Would you mind taking a class? He's like, yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. And it's like Chris. Chris doesn't know Serrada too much. He knows a little bit.
Yeah, he can do lock and block, it looks like.
Yeah, and he'll jump in and like if he sees a new guy doing something wrong, he'll tweak him,
Yeah.
He knows. So, but yeah, definitely blessed with our location.
Yeah. Moving forward with FMA, there's always some interesting drama within the community. And it sounds like, and what I've observed with you on Instagram is like you are one of those hubs that is just it's a hub of positivity. So it's one of the things that I really have enjoyed seeing with your content, because I see a lot of people, a lot of familiar faces, and coming from all these different backgrounds. So FMA is world renowned, as like any other system, but it's an FMA show. FMA is world renowned for drama, just is.
Yes.
But being a beacon of hope, of like saying, hey, we can work together, is totally fine. We all love this thing. What are some of your suggestions for the community that would tear itself apart, because it does on occasion? So what would be your suggestion to them to say, hey, chill the fuck out, we can do this?
Yeah, and not attach themselves to dogma so much. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it has to be done this way, Grandmaster. Like, you know,
yeah,
loosen up. It's fun, man. Just relax a little bit. Don't take yourself so seriously. Like, that's what I love, like, a lot of your content with the chicken, man. Like, you know, just have fun with it. You know, that won't work in the street. Like, you know, my system, yeah, I've had guys like, you know, my FMA system will beat everyone in your class.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, man, come on by.
Let's go.
I carry my pistol with me too. And so you come and threaten me, you might get the stick, the knife, or the gun.
It's the you don't judo know. You don't know if I got a knife.
I do live in Florida, man. I'm an official Florida man. I've lived here longer than I lived in Jersey. So
there you go.
I come at you with an alligator.
I mean, Florida FMA, Florida Man Arts. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's just yeah, don't take yourself so seriously, and just like I never try to teach anybody. Like, oh, if you put your left foot back, or you know, you could have done this, or like, dude, it's a video of someone doing a specific thing, man. Like, you know, you either applause them, like, and that's what I do a lot. I'll give them, you know, to support, because you know, we were definitely the redheaded stepchild of martial arts,
which is so, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but it is still incredibly frustrating. So
yeah, and you know, so I always try to support FMA, and I support anyone who supports me too.
Yeah.
Like Magic Kung Fu guy, he's great. He does Wing Chun, and I post a lot of his stuff. Conrad Bowie.
Yeah. Talk about an accomplished martial artist. That young man has done everything.
No, he's
still does everything.
Great shape.
Yeah.
He's great. Yeah, he constantly trains. If I had the time, I wish I could do that. But yeah, he's great. There's so many guys out there. There's the Boondock Kali guy. What's his name? His name is
we're talking about Guro Hunkar.
Joel.
Joel Hunkar.
Yeah, he's great too.
Yeah, he's a Balintawak guy as well.
Yeah, he's mixed bag too.
Yeah, he's got the compo and I think Medusa and a couple other things in there.
Yeah. He's cool. What I know about him from online. You know? But yeah, he supports a lot, and I support back, and I get you know, like Aries is a local. It's like an hour away. It's a gun. It's a gun training. I always support those guys, and there's Dexter, Fletcher. He's he retired, not ex. He's retired Miami SWAT.
Oh, nice.
And he's come up when he was even in SWAT. He'd come up and train the weekend with us. He kind of cross train. He'd show us gun tactics and stuff.
Yeah.
So he supports SWAT. We support him back. So yeah, and then like I'll try to support other guys. You know, always with stuff positive, and never, you know, and then never like, hey, would you want me to teach a seminar? Like, because you get those guys too. Like, I
trying to make a buck. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, yeah.
Hands, and suddenly they have this whole seminar thing that they want, you know, my guys to like. I don't mind if they're like, if they approach me like, hey, like Would you mind doing a joint seminar?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how they go about it. But if they go
Yeah.
straight back at me about doing a seminar at my place, I usually swat it down.
I'm just all about like, hey, I want to show up and play because
Yeah.
it makes my life more entertaining. So
And people are like that. 99.9% of the times, I invite them to teach a little bit at the end of class.
yeah.
You know, after to introduce them. Stuff like that. I give them the class at the end, but almost always do that.
Yeah.
For a while, I was getting a lot of people just, I like their page and, hey, do you want to, this is all my videos. You want to buy my videos? And it's like, bro, just supporting you, man, but I can't support you financially.
No.
Just barely paying dojo rent.
Because that leads to another issue, because the journey of a martial artist and martial arts instructor is you start off as a student, and then you either go like the practitioner, athlete, professional martial artist of some form, whether law enforcement, military, or just combat sports or whatnot. And then you have the school owners, or you have the teachers who teach out of places. And for anybody who does martial arts as a profession, especially running a brick and mortar school, my hat's off to them having done that, because that's hard. It just straight up is hard to use martial arts as your primary source of income. So anybody who does that, my respects and my apologies, because I feel you. So
Yeah, you would have to teach kids though. I mean, I don't
yeah.
really kids. I tell people like they have to be at least 10, and
Mm-hmm.
if you want your kid to come, you have to train with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to subject my guys to a kid, like, what I'm saying. I hated it when I was in martial arts. I hated going against a kid, like,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's like slow training. I was like, man, this sucks. But yeah, we don't teach kids, so
Yeah.
never make money.
And that's what I find the difference between, you got a school and you got a club. And now a club could be a brick and mortar or a non brick and mortar, but like if you're not trying to make money other than just like pay for the space, that's where I find the club actually ends up being a little more enjoyable for everybody all the way around, because there isn't this like, we have to make money, we have to make rent, and I have to pay my bills. I mean, obviously you have to pay your bills for the school space, but it's not like I own a school, I am the product, and I can't fail at this because this is how I make my living. So yeah.
Then it gets kind of dicey. Then you start charging for everything and getting on people about not paying.
Yeah, that sucks.
I mean, paying is important, because I tried it. I still do it today. I still like offer some people like, yeah, I'll teach you for free, like or like family nephews, or like, and it's the wrong angle to go. because it's free. Like when we first started teaching, everything was free. We trained at the park. We didn't pay anything. I loved to do it. So, but we had hardly any. We had like 2 guys. And people would come and they'd love it, but they'd never come again. And it was like, the minute I started charging like $5 or $10 in the beginning, I started keeping people, man. I was like, okay.
They see value in it because they have an investment.
Yeah, it was a hard lesson. But like I said, I still offer it today. Like if it's a close friend and I'm like, yeah, you don't have to pay, just come on out.
Yeah.
Never come out. Same thing with family, like nephews. I'm always like, yeah, free, and never come. They'll bring their friends one time, but never show up again.
Yeah.
So it's, that's a lesson learned, man. Is you got to charge, man.
Yeah.
You gotta. I don't ask my guys for money. They'll pay me, and I know like sometimes the guys will start slacking off or not coming, and I'll ask, hey, what's going on? And if it's monetary, I say, hey, just come to class. Don't worry about it. You just train. Don't have to pay me back. I'd rather you train and keep up your skills. Than either lose you or you come back and you're struggling to get your, knocked around. So, and usually the guys will do that until they get on their feet again, and they'll go back to paying. So, and I have the 2 other schools that help pay the school too. So add a little bit money, and it's a warehouse, so it's not like I'm paying thousands of dollars. You know, it's hot in the summer.
Yeah.
We got giant fans, but they're in the middle of summer in Florida with tin
With
roof.
no airflow. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets hot. But thankfully, there's two bay doors, two garage doors on either side. We open it.
Yeah, so it just blows through. Yeah.
A bit, but it's hot air going through it. Summer's hot. Winters, it's great to train. But yeah, so when we first started training there, it was only like $300 a month, so it was cheap.
Yeah.
And every year though, since then they've raised it like $100. So
yeah, I was there at the end with my school. I was paying over $5,000 in rent, plus utilities, plus all the other crap associated with the business. It was awful.
Yeah, and that's stress on you too, and like stress of, like you said, like making it like, every month. Yeah, that's, mine. If we go, we'll go back to the park again. Like if I have to lose it, we'll do what we did before, is train at the park. And we've gone from training at parks, training at my friend Doc Mella's house.
Mm-hmm.
He was a doctor. He old Filipino guy, and he came from the same area my mom came from.
Oh, cool.
He was the same age too, and he had turned his he was an Aikido guy, and he had done Serrada before.
Oh, nice.
And he turned his garage into a little dojo. So we would go there, but when sometimes he'd sit there and watch us, and then he'd go into his house and just had to knock and tell him we're leaving so he could close up. But
yeah,
I started feeling bad because he was an older guy and he was sleeping, and I'm waking him up. And we went back to the park, and every time I saw him, he's like, "Oh, McGee, come back to the house." I knew he enjoyed it, but sometimes I think it just became like, me, I just felt guilt. It's that Catholic guilt, man. It was,
yeah.
I felt guilty. So, but we've trained at karate schools too, which sometimes it was cool. And that's how I got some of my Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because we went to one school. It was called Iron Horse at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy taught some FCS, but he had us do a demo. He's like, "Yeah, you guys move a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
If you guys teach FMA to my guys, I'll teach you and your guys Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu." So
that's cool.
Yeah. So we all did it. It was like a new thing. It was fun for all of us. It was cool while it lasted. But then his business went under. He couldn't make the rent.
Yeah.
But yeah, while it lasted. And then he had partners come in, and they were Taekwondo instructors, and they did well because they had kids classes and stuff.
That's Taekwondo. Yeah,
we had the same deal with them until they changed it one day. Like we were there for a couple of years, and then they started asking for money, and we're like, yeah, from our guys, we're like, yeah, we're gonna go. So we went back to the park. The park's always, it's always there. We never had any issue with it with the cops or anything.
It's always a Filipino martial arts thing of a couple things. One, start in the backyard. Yep. 2, train in the park. And 3, be a sublease as part to a larger school. Leading the having a full-on dedicated FMA school is such a rare thing. I mean, obviously there's people like Dr. Tim Hartman and Dan Inosanto. I mean, they have dedicated FMA schools, but like in the totality compared to everything else, it's always backyard and the park or sublet. And which leads to this question of like, why do you think we're always that redheaded stepchild when it comes to the martial arts community, where we're always like asking to be somewhere?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's hard. Like I have a dedicated school only because the rent is cheap.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a warehouse.
Talking about schools and FMA being the runt of the litter when it comes to the overall being part of stuff. So
yeah, I think it's kind of we don't mind like being like not owning the school, but getting a little part of the school as long as it's a good deal, like and then the park, it feels natural. It's like some backyard. And that's when our school closed the first time with Sergie. We trained in parks and backyards. It feels natural, man. It's just, and I know old school karate guys did it too. They trained in backyards and stuff.
Oh, the YMCA. Yeah.
Yeah. YMCA karate. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if it's maybe part of our culture that we're cool with that. We don't have the ego that it has to be my school, that we're cool with. Yeah, that's cool. And if not, I'll go to the park, man. The park's free. So, when we were at the park, we had more students because we had more people like kind of walking by and then seeing it and then just trying it out. Whereas my warehouse is kind of a little sketchy at nighttime. We don't have it. It's an industrial area. There's a lot of warehouses.
Yeah.
A lot of like mechanic shops along that street, stuff like that. So the area looks a little sketchy. Like I said, we've never had any break-ins or with our cars or anything like that. But women coming in, it's if they don't come at Saturday morning, because Saturday morning it's nice, sunny, it's bright. They come at night. Like I said, it looks a little sketchy with not the greatest lightings. The bathroom's a little scary because it's a warehouse.
Yeah.
So I had a woman one time. She came to class, and it was nighttime. And I told her, you could park in the front here. She's like, okay. And then she's like, is there a bathroom that I could change in? And I was like, oh, that's the bathroom. It's right there. She changed, came to class, but we never saw her again. So she never came back.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to keep women, like keep them as students, because they'll come and at night it's just like I said, scary sometimes, or I might show knife stuff and they get a little scared of the knife stuff.
Well, you have this one gal. I'm going to bring up your Instagram. That she's moving really well, and it seems like she's been at this for a minute.
Yeah, so it's interesting with her. Her name's Honey. So I'm not, that's her name. But Honey was taught by her dad.
Yeah,
he's Filipino. He was a Green Beret. He was a police officer as well. And he taught her, and I believe she doesn't know the name of the style, but what she showed, I think it was a form of Pakiti.
Yeah.
That she learned. So she has some of the ingrained
the flourishes and extensions. Yeah.
And she started with us a couple years ago, but would be very spotty with she'd come and then wouldn't show up for 3 months or 4 months, and then but recently she's been training more on the weekends with us, and she trains with Sergie. Sergie runs like an early morning, like 7:00 in the morning class at his house. So
nice.
Got like 4 or 5 of the gals and guys go there and train, and then after they go to the Saturday morning class. And Dee's she's one of our other female students. She's been with us. She's pretty advanced. She does well too. So we have a few. We have a few dedicated. Then we have Zeb. She's a young lady who's training with us. So these probably back up as one of the montage. That's Chris.
There's Chris. There's our homie.
And that's Daryl. Daryl's one of my old school guys. If you go this one, or the one right below, that one. Try that one. Yeah, that's D right there to the right.
Oh yeah, cool.
So D's good. She's been with us for a while, and we have a few female students, and they're not like D comes like at least once a week, So D's there, and Honey she started picking up, and she's doing good, but like I said, she has a little bit of that background knowledge from her dad, which is what we were talking about earlier, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting within Filipino culture where you have either the uncle, the older brother, or the dad who has FMA in their background, but not like knowing or not naming it as FMA,
Yeah,
and they're resistant to teach it. And there's a couple of consistent things I've come up or have discovered. One is like they're trying to get past violence is really a big part of that. Move beyond that because either there was criminal attachment to it, so socially it looks like criminality because often it was used as it, or two, they're trying to get past the violence because of warfare, and or it's just the other one for some reason. When moving to the States or elsewhere, when the family's trying to assimilate into that local culture, and this isn't just unique to Filipinos, but like when people assimilate to a new culture, they tend to discard their previous culture and creates this
yeah,
like identity crisis to a point. But and also like it disconnects their children from where they were before, and this is where you see like again this identity crisis for young Phil. I'll just use Filipinos for example, or young Filipino Canadian, whatever, where they live in two worlds of like they're in or three worlds that are American, they have Filipino ancestry, and they're lived an experience here. We're not taught that, and then they have the hybrid in between of like I don't know what I am. I'm just making up what I am. So yeah.
yeah. I had a student which was interesting. So it was almost opposite. So Scott Phope, Scott Phope, he grew up in the Philippines. His dad was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He's not Filipino. He has no Filipino blood connection at all. But his dad was stationed there when he was in high school.
Yeah.
And when he was in high school, part of their gym class was the little FMA.
Yeah.
So he had that, and that's why he's like, yeah, he's like, I did some in high school. I was like, where'd you go to high school, dude? He's like Manila, the Philippines. I was like, get the fuck out, man. I'm like,
Lucky.
that's cool. Yeah. You know, like, you don't see that too often, you know.
No.
So,
No.
Yeah, it was cool. It was he's a pilot now. He kind of solved everything and became a pilot, which is cool.
That's cool.
Too.
That's
Everyone,
cool.
when he's in town, he'll come to class.
Oh, nice.
Knock the rust off a little bit. But yeah, it's always cool to see when people are taught from their dad. That's Da Vinci. Da Vinci's dad is modern Arnis.
Yeah.
So he was taught strictly by his dad. So stuff was from his dad. And then as I was training with him and we were doing some cross training, he started inviting his dad down, and it was cool to see that, because his dad was not just modern Arnis, he was old school karate guy too. And he kind of blends some of those techniques in, and mostly on like the punching. Like he was showing us like how old school karate doesn't just punch forward, they punch down.
Yeah.
You know, and he was showing us those
that spiral punch into the floating rib.
Yeah. It's a cool little thing to add, you know, take away from one art and kind of, you know, put it in your pocket for later, man. You know?
Yep.
But yeah,
that spiral little punch to the clavicle. Oh,
yeah. Man. Yep. Yeah. He punched me. I was a damn oot game. And I was like, oh, yeah, it works.
I mean, it's one of those things. Again, creating culture and maintaining culture, because I mean, martial arts is a conduit, or just any martial tradition is a conduit for tribal identity. And it's a patrilineal tribal learning model where, again, you have men of the tribe training in the yard, where you have the old men, the current warriors, and those coming up who are learning what it is to be those who defend the land and the people. And again, that goes back to the park and the backyard, where you have men of the tribe learning the ways to defend the land and the people. So when you have fathers teaching sons, or uncles or grandfathers, etc., teaching the young men of their family and young women of their family, it's incredibly special, because that's how we maintain a culture as culture bearers, lineage bearers, and also for another thing, as parents, it's great time hanging out with your kids, because again, you never know until you know that some of the greatest memories that your children will have will be as a dojo baby, training in the backyard, spending time with dad and mom. So yeah,
that's my daughter. She grew up. She stopped probably in her mid-teens, like 13. She stopped training when she was 13, 14. And then she started in her 20s again. for a year or two. I have some videos when Chris kind of first started, her and Chris doing some Sinawali together.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and I have pictures of her doing Sinawali when she was like 6.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the only time that I did have other kids, and it was, you know, and Sergie's kids, he brings his kids sometimes. So yeah, it's always like kind of just like family or friends who would bring the kids. But I never wanted to teach other people's kids because trouble enough with my own children.
Well, it's not your job to parent them. Your job is to teach to teach the thing that you're teaching. Yeah, I get that.
Because in the school we kind of teach the same way, like the family style, where it's, if you're the kuya, you're going to teach the younger guys, you know, younger guys and gals. It's anyone above anyone new coming in, the guys above them, teach them. And then I'll show something to do, but those guys will be there as partners to guide them through. So yeah, we still kind of do that family style. And with our style, when we end in a circle.
Yeah.
So we don't kowtow to one person.
That's cool.
We all kowtow to each other.
Yeah,
you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, that's one cool thing Jimmy had was we would all bow in a circle. So I kept that. You know, when we do our whole salute thing, we do the whole longer one. It's not really long, but it's longer than just like, you know, this or that.
Yeah.
So we usually end class with that, and that's where we gather in a circle.
Yeah, I mean, those traditions are important because one, it makes the culture unique, because we just don't want the bland, homogenized like mix. Without any. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna crap on mixed martial arts as a sport, but the risk of mixed martial arts is this idea of a homogenized system that is devoid of all authentic uniqueness and doesn't give credit to where the stuff comes from, and it becomes so formulaic or so repeatable that there is no individuality. You end up being just like a clone, just like you're a clone for the curriculum. You're just a clone for just base movement, which, I mean, there is the benefits of just like violence, athleticism, and skill, sure, but as artists, as a part of a culture, we need those unique features to specifically harken back to where this stuff came from. And one, I mean, culture is important. We need culture.
Yeah, I teach a little bit of the stick language to the students as like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody kind of eats that up.
Yeah.
That the movements all mean something. That they're all like, that's so cool, you know. And I definitely teach that. We always go back and forth on using Tagalog terms or Visayan, because we switched some of the Tagalog words to Visayan. Jimmy had them as Tagalog, but then we switched a few of the words, like the counting, which isn't a big, like, you know, the numbers switch in 1 to 10, you know. But we switched a couple things because the art is from the Visayas. We kind of switched to a little bit more Visayan, but you know, it's always better when Sergie's there versus when, and he's hardly there nowadays.
Yeah.
Versus me, because I don't speak either. So, and anytime I do speak Tagalog or Visayan, Sergie's like, white boy. He's like,
it's like my accent. I did not learn Tagalog or Visayan growing up, and I still don't know it very well. I speak much better Spanish than I do anything else.
Yeah.
But like my accent, when it comes back in, it's not Filipino. It's like Samoan, Hawaiian, because that's what I grew up around.
That's cool. Yeah, mine's white boy Tagalog.
Mine flips back to like when I code switch, especially because I got stationed down in the South a lot. So I had, for like 11 years, I had this weird twang, like country Southern twang, because being in the army. Oh, it was fucking awful. But yeah, so talking about culture though, do you teach like the history specific to like Filipino history within your classes? Because there's this, again, going back to culture and lineage and culture bearing, martial arts without the culture is just violence and athleticism. So do you teach, or do you find it important to teach the history of your particular lineage?
So yeah, we
and
definitely,
also the culture which it comes from. Sorry.
yeah, we definitely teach some of the culture. Like I said, like the stick language, a little bit of the reference words, and there's a couple of the techniques have great stories attached to them. So A, it makes a great story, and B, it's a little bit of the culture. So like we have this one strike where like you have number 8 strike kind of cradled in your arms like this. So, and one of the counters is called the chief counter, and it's just slightly moving and just kind of
Angled
blocking.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just putting it, so it's just a slight move. You're hardly moving. So they called it either the old man counter or the chief block. And the story goes that when the chiefs had beef with each other, they would meet each other and they would cradle their weapons in their arms, showing, look, I'm armed, but I'm not raising them against you, but I might. So they're both standing like this, and then if one decides, if the talk gets heated, one attacks, because it's easy attack here right for the neck, that it's a quick, easy counter. So I tell that story, and again, it's a good story, and it has some cultural reference to it. And we have this group with the Central Florida guys, with the Blintawak Jesse from Blintawak, the Pikiti guys from Tampa. We have, and FCS guys. We have this group called Serrada group, and we were doing it once a year. And the past couple of years, since COVID, we've been trying. This year we had one. We're going to probably have one again next year. But our goal always was to teach the Filipino culture. Like teach a cultural aspect, and then teach the martial aspect of that cultural. So, like, for example, the dances. We had the professional dance group dance, and then we showed our martial interpretation of like the coconut dance, like when they're doing this, or that be a block and stuff like that. And then they're attacking each other, touching each other. So we showed that, and then the Moro dance. Of course, that one's the easy one. So we showed the dances, and then we would interpret it. And then we did a cool one a couple years ago, like probably 2015. We did the Filipino myths.
Yeah, that's
which was
cool.
awesome. So we like randomly chose a monster from the hat, and like the FCS guys got the good one. They got the Aswang.
Oh yeah, the Aswang, got Bacalao. Then
so they had
giant
the
horse thing.
The Tikbalang. So the Aswang, they had to do a whip. So the way to fight against the Aswang is like a blessed whip made out of a stingray's tail. So the FCS guys, they do whip. We do a little whip too. But they, not Serrada, but like our group does it. But they did whip defense versus like an Aswang. And then we had the Tikbalang, which is the giant horse. So that charges you. And we did the like kind of the flanking, moving out of the way because it's charging maneuvers. And so you learn a mythical monster. And you learn a martial aspect of how you would defeat it.
I've never heard of that, and that is cool as fuck.
It was awesome. We did another group, the one that was we called it Kamayan. So we did all empty hands. All the systems showed empty hand. The Pikiti guys, we did FCS. We all showed empty hand techniques, and then for lunch we put down banana leaves. We piled the food on, and a lot of people who are not Filipino were like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like, they look scared. And plus, we gave out balut eggs, which
it's good for them.
It was great seeing everybody eat balut. But again, culture, eating with your hands and then fighting with your hands. It was we've done some cool stuff with it. We've the dances, we did the games. The games were fucking hilarious. I never laughed so much, like sustained laughing. You ever hear of was it Tumbad Precious? And again, White Boy Tagalog. You ever hear of that game?
No.
So it's like rescue the prisoner or free the prisoner or something like that.
Okay.
And it's a coffee cup, well, not coffee cup, but a can, like Folgers, like one of those big cans.
Yeah.
You have one of those with a flip flop on top, and then like 10 feet away, you make a line, and that's where everyone stands, and they take their flip flops off, and they try to throw their flip flops and knock the can over.
Oh,
The
okay.
flip flop
That's cool.
off the can. So there's a
Okay.
circle around the can too, so you can't go out of the circle, and you have to put your feet next to wherever the can rolled to, and then you have to stretch to the flip flop.
Okay.
The guy in the center, Once he gets that, then he could throw it at someone, and if he hits them before they pass the line, they take his place. So
Filipino dodgeballs, what this is.
So when you throw your flip flops, you have to go get them.
Yeah.
So hopefully someone knocks the thing over and then gives you that chance to run over there, pick up your flip flop, and then run back. It was hilarious. And then there's a tag game that's like it's like a rectangle with a line down the center and then 2 lines across, and you have guys that have to stand on the line and they can only move along the line.
Yeah.
And typically it was a tag game. Like if I could reach you and tag you, but I can't move off that line, that you're it. So instead of tag, we put knives in everybody's hands. It's like training knives.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like time it to if a guy moves, then you move into his square. So if you stand like correct, like right in the center, you're just out of reach of the knives. So then as soon as the guy moves to tag someone else, then you have to kind of run down. And if you get all the way to the end, that's 1 point. Whatever team gets 5 points wins. And again, it's culture. It's Filipino game, but we martialized it by putting a knife in your hand.
That's awesome, because aside from what this podcast does about talking about FMA, as part of my master's program, what I'm doing is gathering data about culture bearers and ways that we use certain features of cultural activities as institutions of maintaining culture whilst preserving it and living it, thereby creating new culture. So games like this, hybridization of FMA plus traditional tribal games plus like mythology, like all the stuff that you've been describing is exactly what I'm trying to find ways people do that about creating culture, living culture, creating new culture, so we can reconnect to our previous culture. Because like a lot of Filipinos that was raised outside of the Philippines, there is that disconnect of like, what is it to be a Filipino? And this argument about preserving what was, when the fact is culture is a living, evolving thing, and we can't go back. So we have to accept what is and move forward with what it can be. And what it can be is whatever you want it to be. And what you and your group is doing is awesome, because I've never heard of using mythology as a modality to teach martial arts and culture. And these games that have, because most games come from warfare. I mean, from football.
Yeah.
What is polo? Not necessarily water polo, but horse polo. I mean, it's all cavalry games.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Games come from warfare, and so games like this, like you're doing the flip flop. I mean, that's chucking a spear. That's zone defense, doing the knife thing. I mean, those are all martial games, and they're fun and they're culturally relevant. So again, this is cool. I love this stuff. This is
very
amazing.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool because it's sharing culture.
Yeah.
But you're still doing your FMA
too.
So like the Paquita guys, when we did the myth, they had, I forgot the name of the monster, but it was like when a woman's given birth, the monster might appear as a flaming ball. And a lot of Filipino monsters go after the fetus or the baby, so this one would go after the baby being born as it's being born when the woman is in labor. So the Paquita guys, what they did is they took knives and they do like a sayao, or kind of like a flow over the pregnant lady the whole time she's pregnant, to keep that monster away. And it was awesome because my friend, one of the Wakies, brought their niece and stuffed her niece with a pillow and made her lay on the ground. It was awesome. And he was like doing his, flow over her belly, explaining what it was, But it was cool because a lot of the guys, even Filipinos, they don't know the monsters. They don't know, the games.
Yeah.
Or even seen all the dances. They most people have seen the
Tinkling.
The Tinkling. I mean, almost everyone's seen that one. But like, have they seen the Mora Mora dance? Have they seen the coconut
dance? Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's cool to share the culture like that.
Yeah, it is. Well, for the community out there who don't have a great resource, I mean, you can Google it, but there is a webpage that I reference all the time. I'll bring it up. It's the Ashwang Project. And what it is just going into the myths and legends of pre-colonial and post-colonial Philippines. And there's some great stuff in here.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure.
Yeah, it's just the ashwangproject.com. And also really cool that we have a lot of Filipino media coming out, both like the Netflix show Treses, which was a comic book. You have the Bayani NYC comic book. I mean, there's so much Filipino stuff being out in the media where we have so much great representation. I mean, like, again, you have like Nostalgic, you have Bayani art. I mean, Itak clothing back in the day. I mean, there's so many great things. Yeah. I mean, where's another one? Like, here's one. Because I'm a big fucking nerd. Like, you have this thing, which is a D&D 5e setting in the Philippines. Awesome. Yeah, so like, there's so much opportunity out there to, one, learn your culture, and two, live your culture. There you go. There you go. So yeah, because it leads into the question of like, what is a Filipino? And I asked this of everybody, and the common consensus is it's whatever you make of it. So from that aspect, from your definition, because I haven't asked it in this podcast, but what is a Filipino to you?
I think it's like culture and, or at least even learning. Again, I'm a half-blooded, so Filipinos don't see me as Filipino.
You are.
White people don't see me as white, and I don't speak the language, but I know a decent amount. Like, I've learned a little bit of the culture. I think it's blood. I think it's learning the culture. Even like I have friends who they're white as hell, but they've lived in the Philippines.
Yeah,
they have more Filipino culture than I do. They speak Tagalog well. It's like my dad. My dad spoke Tagalog. He fought for the Philippines. He bled in the Philippines. I didn't do any of that, but I think it's definitely, like you said, a combination of things. You can be full-blooded Philippines from the Philippines, speak Tagalog. Yes, you're Filipino, right?
Yeah.
But you can also be someone who visits, who speaks the language, who throws themselves into the culture. And I think that kind of makes them Filipino too. And like I said, more Filipino than I am.
I mean, being Filipino enough is such a limiting mentality for everybody. The fact is, you're Filipino because you are. It's just.
And then you get the Filipinos who they grew up here and they call me FOB, and I'm like, dude, I was FOB like when I like 40 years ago, 40 something years ago, man. I don't know if that's fresh off the boat,
I don't know. It's silly, and when we find clever and creative ways to hybridize the preservation of culture and living it, I mean, we become that much better, because getting past the pains of colonialism and generational trauma and occupation and invasion, like, there's ways that we can get past it and not just be stuck in that traumatic phase. And martial arts, Filipino martial arts, all the stuff that you described earlier, which is fucking awesome, is a way to, one, embrace and acknowledge it, because the reasons why we're learning the martial arts is because we had to defend the land and the people, and this is the stuff that helped do it. So let's learn it, let's train it, so never again, but never forget. And what you never forget is by teaching and by doing. And that is one of the ways to get past the anger and the great death of colonialization, because there's a lot of like indigenous people or colonized people who are just still stuck in that anger, which is valid and warranted, but you got to do something with it, because just like anything else, if you stay in an angry state, you're just a miserable person. So
yeah, I've met a couple of them, but
yeah,
because I get kind of both sides sometimes, you know. I get that I'm the colonizer, or I'm the product of the colonizers, and you know.
I mean, like, how far back do you want to go? Because again, you have Scottish ancestry, and their history is about fighting the oppressive British coming in and colonizing them and trying to genocide and breed them out, because like that was a thing.
Yeah.
So it's really like, how far back do you want to go, and how like into the weeds of semantics do we want to deal with? Because again, the issue with decolonizing your mind is specific to everybody who is not white, but they forget about like white people or Caucasians were colonized by somebody at some point. So
yeah,
take it as what it is for the audience, but the fact is, it's not just a one-sided topic. So
yeah, I was thinking, you know, maybe one year, I don't know about next year, but maybe next year or the following year, we could try to get you to fly you down for a Crusade event.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
because we do, like, we try to interact with the Filipino like community here too.
yeah,
So during the spring we had there's a Filipino cultural center in Tampa. So it
yeah,
has like the built Filipino huts and stuff like that. It looks like a little like
yeah,
fake little Filipino, you know, kind of like theme
yeah,
area. And
yeah,
they have a big Filipino fest there, and they asked my friend Simeon to if the Filipino schools could run security.
yeah.
And we ran security. We walked around with our sticks in our hands. It
Mm-hmm.
was pretty fucking awesome, man. We're
It is
walking around with
awesome.
our sticks. People are like, yeah.
You're part of the attraction, but you're a
Yeah.
functional part.
Yep. Yeah. So, and they said last year that someone had to, like, one of the guys tried to attack one of the Bikini guys.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to like grab his sticks, and the guy got it off and wound up whacking him once or twice in the arms. But the guy fell down, and yeah.
What did you learn?
Yeah, don't attack guy with sticks, man.
Oh, that's so funny, and it's cool because, like, again, talk about like the representation and the development of Filipino culture these past 20 years, and just in popular media and everything else. Like, as a kid, adoptee, disconnected from the wider Filipino community, it's like, man, I wish that this stuff was there. I am so not, I hate to say jealous of my kids, but I am, because there's this stuff, these resources that just wasn't there for me. But it's up to me and to like make sure that my kids participate in these resources and these activities, so they don't have this disconnect that I did. And I'm so grateful that there is so much out there for us to be Filipino and define what it is to be Filipino.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much resources nowadays compared to when we were coming up. You know, like there's like, you know, Encyclopedia Britannica.
Hell, we have our own anthem. I mean, thanks to Talilo Marfil, we have Big Flip, which is our fucking anthem of the Filipino experience. I mean, that dude is so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I'll talk to the Manongs, the Cruzada Manongs, and talk to them about maybe trying to get you a flight down here for one of the Cruzadas.
That'd be great.
Because we're probably going to start meeting in probably a month to start talking about next year.
Nice. Well, I will have a healthy amount of these guys with me. So
nice, awesome.
Well, talk about Filipino. As much as like I use this for comedy and all the other reasons why, there's something about the sabong. I mean, the fighting cock. Yeah. I mean, this is just another version of it. So talk about like Filipino connection.
We had one. I don't remember because I was so young, but our rooster was Big Bully.
Mm-hmm.
He was a retired fighting cock, man, as a pet.
Mm-hmm. Just don't sneak up on him.
Yeah. Yeah, the chicken's big part of the culture, man.
Yep.
We love to fight them, we love to eat them.
Why not?
Chicken
Like
adobo, man.
Oh man. Well, Eric, I don't know how much time you have. I have to get the class here at noon. It says I have jujitsu. So
yeah, I got it's 3:00 over here. So
yeah. Well, brother, I really appreciate hanging out with you. I really appreciate you sharing your stories and your truth and the gift of your time. And also, like, all these years just being a homie on Instagram. Again, I love the way we are in the world today, that we have so much opportunity to connect and make friends from across the world. Because again, isolation is an awful thing, but we have the internet to mitigate that.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you for all your support, and thank you for and just being cool, because you're one of those gems of people that you have an opportunity to be an asshole online. Everybody does.
Yeah.
But you choose not to be. And I love that about you. And I appreciate that you do that, because we need more of that in this world, because we already have enough shit that divides us. And kindness is one of those ways that we can bridge things together. So I appreciate your kindness and your support and your willingness to hang out with me, man.
And thank you, man. I really appreciate it, for the honor of having my lonely ass here on, man.
It's all good. We'll have to do it again. And yeah, definitely I will make the trek down to Florida at some point. It's like one of 7 states that I have not been to, or no, 5 states that I've not been to. So it will happen.
Yeah, maybe you could, tag it onto a Balintawak thing or something too, man.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
They have the big Bobby Balintawak things it seems like 2 or 3 times a year, man.
Yeah, they just had World Camp there in North Carolina over the weekend. G and Bobby and I share a birthday weekend. His birthday's is on the 6th and mine's on the 5th. So I need to make it out to at least one of the camps so we can have a joint high five and birthday.
Yeah.
So. Well, yeah,
that's cool.
It's fun.
I'll let you know what the other Monongs say. Because it'd be great to get some of the cultural stuff documented. Would be great, because we're the Crusada group is we do some documentation, but we're not that great about videotaping,
Yeah.
So whereas that's why I'm hardly in any videos, because I'm too busy videotaping my awesome students.
Well, I'm friends with Eric and Alan from Budo Brothers. So I could reach out to them and have them also come down, because you want to talk about some phenomenal videography. Yeah. Those guys are amazing. So I definitely, I'll shoot them a line and see if they can come down as well. Because those dudes are amazing, and they're just great people. So.
Yeah, I follow them. Those guys are great. They do stuff with Joel too. Yep. Which is cool. When I first started seeing Joel in that, I was like, oh, awesome, man.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of Joel's flows, man. When he just flows, I'm a big fan of his stuff. So when I saw him on the Budo Brothers stuff, I was like, oh, cool, man.
Yeah. And by extension of that, you got Kevin Goat, who's Joel's student and also primary client of the Budo Brothers and friend of theirs. So yeah.
Yeah, he's in all those videos. Yeah. So it's awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, dude,
FMA community, man, it's not that, it's just pretty tight, man. It's pretty small once you start, learning everybody,
Yeah. And because it's small, we have the opportunity to grow together and be positive. So, because again, the internet is watching, thereby the world is watching. So again, having you as an example of what the FMA community can and should be, a positive individual.
Just don't be
continue
a dick.
leading. Yeah, don't be a dick. That is the theme of this. Actually, no, the 2 themes of this episode is 1, have a supportive spouse is the key to success in any martial arts endeavor, and 2, don't be a dick online. Don't be an asshole. Awesome. Well, brother, I'm going to do the outro. I'm going to drop you down and just hang out in the lobby. And I'll see you here in a sec.
Awesome, man. Thanks again.
Word. 1 sec. Well, everybody, episode 40 in the bag. Thanks for hanging out. This is one of those conversations that was less heavy because we went through a lot of heavy shit in the last month, but now we get to actually just hang out and bullshit and talk about FMA and be FMA nerdy. So we learned some great stuff today. I appreciate everybody hanging out, and let's hit this button because I'm out of here. Enjoy.